Hey guys, hope you all are doing great. Welcome back to Stock My Closet. For today's project, I have taken 2.5 meter cotton fabric with this beautiful one-sided border. Firstly, I'll separate the border with half inch of seam allowance. So I've cut out the border. Now I'll fold and iron the seam allowance on both sides of border and I'll just keep it aside. Now I'll cut the kurti, and for that firstly I'll separate two lengths, one for front and one for back. So I folded the fabric by half in width and by half in length. In my measurement, kurti length is 45 inch and I'm taking 2 inch for seam allowance. So I'll just cut out the on fold side to separate the lengths. I'll just keep front length aside. Firstly, I'll cut the back. For back, I don't need full width of fabric. I'll separate the required width and I'll use leftover fabric for neckline finishing and sleeves. I'm using Ghera measurement to separate the width as this is the widest measurement on the kurti. In my measurement, Ghera or bottom measurement is 26 inch and I'll be adding 1 inch of seam allowance on both sides. So I'll mark a point at 28 inch and I'll cut it out. So I've cut out the required width. This part is for kurti and this is a leftover piece which I'll use for neckline finishing and sleeves. Now to cut the back, I have folded the fabric by half in width. Firstly, I'll mark the vertical measurements. From the top, I'll mark a point at 10.75 inch shoulder to bust measurement, 15 inch shoulder to waist measurement, 22 inch shoulder to hip measurement and 45.5 inch length of kurti, and I have extended these points. Now for shoulder, take half of shoulder width. In my measurement, shoulder width is 14 inch, so half of it will be 7. Neck width is 3 inch. From this point, mark half inch downwards for shoulder slope and join it to the neck width point. From this point, mark half of armhole round, that is 7 inch in my measurement, and extend this point. Mark 1 inch inwards for front armhole curve and join it to the shoulder slope point. Now I'll mark the round measurements. For chest, I'm adding 2 inch of ease. In my measurement, chest round is 35 inch. 35 plus 2 is 37 and dividing it by 4, I'll get 9.25 inch. For burst, I'm adding 3 inch of ease. In my measurement, burst round is 37 inch. 37 plus 3 is 40 and dividing it by 4, I'll get 10 inch. For waist, again I'm adding 3 inch of ease. In my measurement, waist round is 30 inch. 30 plus 3 is 33 and dividing it by 4, I'll get 8.25 inch. For hip, again I'm adding 3 inch of ease. In my measurement, hip round is 38 inch. 38 plus 3 is 41 and dividing it by 4, I'll get 10.25 inch. Now I'll join these points using curved ruler. Make slight curve to the pointed shape. Now I'll draw front and back armhole curve. Bottom measurement is 13 inch and I'll join it to the hip point. I've added 1 inch of seam allowance on the slits and 1.5 inch of seam allowance on the chest, burst, waist. So with this, marking of kurti is complete. Now I'll cut it out. So I've cut out the back, now I'll cut the front. For front, I'm taking whole width of fabric. I've folded the fabric by half in width. Now from the on-fold side, mark a point at 6 inch inwards from top to bottom and join these points. This is for gathers. I've added 6 inch. You can change the figure according to your choice. Now taking this as guiding line, place the back like this and I'll cut it out. So I've cut out the front and I've also traced the measurements on the front side. Now I'll cut out the yoke. From this line, I'll mark the neck width point, that is 3 inch. Mark midpoint on this part. This is 4 inch, so midpoint will be 2 inch. From neck width point, I'll mark neck depth, that is 7 inch. And again from the same neck width point, I'll mark yoke length, that is 14.5 inch. If you measure it straight, it's 14 inch, and from neck width point, it measures 14.5 inch. Now measure from this line to the midpoint. This is 5 inch. Mark the same width from the yoke bottom. Now I'm adding half inch of seam allowance for yoke. So I've added seam allowance. Now I'll cut it out. We don't need this part. This is for gathers. We don't need to add gathers on the yoke. So I'll just cut out the yoke. So here I'm just separating the yoke part. Now I'll recut the yoke. This is the leftover fabric. Fold the fabric by half in width like this. Place the yoke. I'll take around 1.5 inch of seam allowance on the sides and the bottom, and I'll cut out the yoke. So I've cut out the yoke. This on-fold side will be the center of the yoke. Now I'll finish the front neckline on the yoke. I've already marked neck width and the center point, and I'm making V-shaped neckline on the buckram. So I've finished the neckline. I've already shared a detailed video on how to make different kind of necklines. I'll share the link in the description box. You can check it out from there. Now I'll attach the border. I've folded and ironed the seam allowance on both sides of border. And now I'll show you how I'll place the border on the yoke. So I've given Angrakha shape with the border, and now I'll make a stitch on both sides of border to secure it. I have pinned up the border so that it stays in place, and now I'm making top stitch on both sides of border to secure it. So I've attached the border and this is how it will look. I've marked seam allowance on both sides of the yoke. Now I'll make gathers on the center of the kurti, and to add gathers I'll make basting stitch. For basting stitch, just select the highest stitch length on your sewing machine and make the straight stitch. So I made a stitch. I've cut long tail of thread to pull the gathers. So I've added the gathers. Just take the bobbin thread and pull the thread to add gathers like this, and then adjust gathers according to the required width. Now place the yoke to check the width, and now I'll attach the yoke with the kurti. I've already marked seam allowance on both sides of the yoke. I'll just fold the seam allowance and I'll iron it, and then I'll make the top stitch to secure it with the kurti. So I folded and ironed the seam allowance on all three sides of the yoke and I have pinned it up. Now I'll make a top stitch to secure it. So I've attached the yoke and this is how it looks. And this is a gathers part. You can remove basting stitch after joining yoke with the kurti. I have finished the back neckline with the bias tape and now I'll stitch shoulder slope on both sides. Once you have attached the yoke, rest of the process is just how you stitch the simple kurti. So I have stitched the shoulder slope on both sides and I have overlocked it. Now I'll stitch the side fitting seam. Fabric on the front part will be more than the back, but you just have to join the sides and make the side fitting seam. So I've stitched the side fitting seam. Similarly, I'll stitch the side fitting seam on the other side and I'll finish the slits. And with this, my yoke kurti is ready. If you try this pattern, do share with me on social media. Thanks for watching guys. Hope you like this video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, and do subscribe my channel for more such videos, and I'll see you soon. Till then, take care. Bye bye.